Week 15 is set to kick off. Welcome to Saving Thursday here with my league champion Cavalry FC hat. My name is Ryan Pinder alongside producer Jack. Out on the left coast, our boy Tyson Cole, who's been in the lab all week, grinding beakers, microscopes, spreadsheets. He's cooking up some props we'll get to for a very tasty Thursday nighter on this week. Rams, Niners. Welcome back, Tyson. How are you?
I'm excited, man. Another good week, though. What is that, 5-1 in our last 2 weeks on Saving Thursday for our picks? That's not bad, Ryan.
We've been good, and you know what? There's a rough stretch before that. We needed a good patch. You've responded. Good work in the lab. You were doing some
tweak. For everything I learned from Breaking Bad is what I've been using in here. So
that's okay. Yeah, somebody cooked in here. All right. Yeah. We'll get to tonight's juicy NFC West matchup, which is huge for both these clubs. The Seattle Seahawks somehow kind of trying to run away with the NFC West, which, given how the records are with the other three teams, I guess okay. But if you want to win this division or get into the playoffs, if you're either the Rams or the Niners tonight, you probably need a W tonight to get that done. One of them's got a game left with Seattle. The others played them both. We'll get into all that matchup stuff later on. But we got a good one. And you know what? Thursdays used to be an absolute graveyard. It used to be an absolute dumpster fire of bad games between bad teams, and even for a couple of years with bad jerseys, as they did the color rush thing. But tonight is not one of those, so we will set the scene in San Fran in a moment. But first, the news of the week. Bill Belichick is back, baby, and he's going to be chasing down that Don Shula. He's going to college? Oh. Tyson, wait. Nearly the winningest NFL coach of all time is going to college? University of North Carolina?
I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't like it. Like I was surprised he wasn't signed this year for a head coaching job, but I'm like pretty damn sure that he would for sure get a job next season in the NFL, and then he could chase that record. Granted, if you're firing your coach, probably not a very good team, so maybe it would take him a little bit longer to get it. I'm not sure how far away was he from the record.
Well, it was, look, he signed a 10-year deal, I believe, is the rumor, at the University of North Carolina. So at his age, it's basically no more NFL. And they just had the press conference, and one of the first things he said, or he's been quoted in saying, is, I didn't come here just to leave. Like, he's committed to this. And I think what you talked about has led him here, because I read a great piece on ESPN this morning that talks about people in his inner circle. Like, Bill never says anything to the media. He's been very good at that. There's one guy that he's kind of like get close to him. I think it's that David Halberstam or whatever, the guy that's written his autobiography and, wrote a book about coaching, followed him around from, I think, his fourth year in New England on. But the people close to Bill suggest that he feels like the NFL is doing him wrong. And you could kind of understand his point. Like, if you're Atlanta and you interviewed him, or you're another team that needed a coach and you didn't interview him, like, who in the right mind would look at Bill Belichick's resume and say, no, I think we want this guy over here? Like, if he's angry at the league, I certainly understand why. He should be hired like that. He's the greatest coach we've seen in our lives, you could argue.
Yeah, I was just surprised that the 10-year contract, like you said, like that pretty much signs him out of ever returning to the NFL. But I could see why. Like, he's probably a little offended that he didn't get a job, right? Like, he is one of the best coaches we've ever seen, right? And to not get that respect this offseason, like he pretty much put all his chips into the Atlanta Falcons basket. And then when they didn't go with him, it was like, okay, scrambling now. What do I do? Okay, let's sign with Underdog and go on TV. Like, I could kind of see the hostility there as well. And I mean, I'm happy to see him land on his feet. Maybe he can turn that UNC program around, but it kind of sucks, I want to see Bill Belichick in the NFL.
And you love seeing people chasing history. I mean, again, sports not the same, but I remember it was the Sosa and McGuire home run derby. You were like cutting in for live at bats. I know the NHL has huge designs on Alex Ovechkin when he gets close to Gretzky's goal record. Like, to see Belichick build another program and march toward the all-time wins for a head coach record would have been a cool thing. And to witness history is something we're always like, where were you when? Instead, it's like, okay, maybe he's the next great college coach, but we will, for most of our NFL adult lives that we've witnessed, he's been the best coach there is. And it's like, how you get so close to the, So I'm with you. It's kind of surprising and kind of just I don't want to say disappointing, but a bit of a letdown because we don't get to watch the chase. At least it looks like we won't. But I would encourage everyone to read Seth Wickersham's article on ESPN. He's their senior writer. Long form read. First thing I read when I got out of bed this morning, 6 a.m. Long story. And I think it's some really good intel in the universe that Bill operates in, because I'm just trying to think of his contemporaries in other sports, or just if you're considered a GOAT at whatever you do, to saunter through a year free agency and not get a legitimate offer, like, and now you're hearing that, Robert Kraft's crafted documentary about the Patriots dynasty, his role is really severely diminished. And you're like, okay, yeah, like maybe this is the big screw you to the NFL. And hey, I'm a football coach. I'm a teacher. I build programs. There's lots of places I could do that aren't named the NFL. And they could pay.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. What I like the 10 years thing, I'm still so shocked of. I can't get over that, because normally, like, you could see, okay, a former NFL head coach, it's not crazy for them to go back to college. But for 10 years, like, normally if you go back to college and then you build a winning program, then that's what turns heads in the NFL and be like, okay, Bill still got it. We can hire him back. But 10 years, that's insane. Like, and
that's kind of what speaks to the hurt feelings, right? Or at least it would make sense if the lengthy article is true. Just trying to confirm the 10-year term. That's reporting. That's not it. Okay. Yeah, maybe I'm off on the 10 years, but it's a significant commitment. And he said immediately he's not showing up there just to leave. So that's the big story of the week. I'm sure the other thing we haven't really talked about is when you have the greatest quarterback of all time, now there's always going to be those people nitpick. But it was Brady. But it was Brady. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, you need good players, but I'm sure, like, you look at the roast of Tom Brady, like, they love Bill. The players, he's all business, and it's not fun in games, but they understood he was a huge part of that, right?
Of course. I mean, like, you watch the roast, you watch, like, Gronk and Edelman have a podcast, and they're always making fun of Bill Belichick and his ways and stuff, but they always, at the end of it, they're always crediting him, like, oh, it was so much fun under Bill, like, even though, like, he's all business, super serious all the time, but players love him. He's, players coach too. Like, he gets along with all the players. So, a little sad to see, but I'm excited for what he can do in UNC.
Disturbing trend I want to alert you to. Now, are you broadcasting live from the palatial wall building studios in downtown Vancouver, or are you at home today?
This is my house. I'm at home. Yeah,
here's the thing. A lot of pro athletes, when they've been going to work, their houses have been robbed. So I just thought, with the fame of the show and the great job you've been doing in the lab the last few weeks, if you were in the downtown Vancouver studios, someone could be robbing your house right now. Yeah, that happened to Joe Burrow on Monday night. He had some 22-year-old swimsuit model that it's like, the house is kind of broken into. And it's like, the NBA has already sent a memo out. The NFL has done it. Patrick Mahomes and I think Travis Kelce or another chief, they got raided, ransacked, robbed, burgled, whatever verb you want to use. And I kind of make light of the situation because, you're making 50 sheets a year. You're going to replace everything, but that's being a little callous, because if you've ever had anything stolen or broken into, it's more just feeling violated. You can replace my CDs. I just don't like someone's in this car.
Yeah.
CDs, Jack? Too young for CDs. So yeah, Joe Burrow was talking about that, and it's odd. These are sophisticated burglars.
Yeah, I mean, they
have an NFL schedule.
Yeah, look at them go.
So sophisticated.
It is upsetting to see that, because now, like, he's always going to have that worry in his head, like, okay, if I'm playing a game, like, who's watching my house? Like, it could get broken into and all that. Like, even if it's a home game, you never really know. So yeah, it kind of sucks. But at the same time, like, did you watch his press conference? He was like, yeah, like, I feel like violated kind of, because like all my personal life has just been completely made out in public now, because now his house got shown, like, and all that. Now his girlfriend
was hanging around there. That might be a new development. I'm not sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, the swimsuit model might be another thing he's not real thrilled about. Who knows?
That's what I was alluding to right there.
Everyone knows about it.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you're in the public eye. Like, everybody kind of cares what you're doing in your personal life and all that stuff. But I mean, I'm sure a lot of girls were pretty upset when they found out that he's got a girlfriend now.
Geez. Yeah. Tough being Joe. No, but you know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a little math here. You've seen these things? It's actually like a computer that's a phone. It's not on the wall.
Oh.
Jack, do you remember when phones were on walls? Yeah, okay, good. So I've got a calculator on here. Wild. Hey, how smart is this thing?
Did you get the new phone? That's crazy.
Joe makes over $50 million a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say he dedicates 10% to security. That would be $5 million. Let's say a really good security person needs to make $100,000. I think he could have 50 people at his house at all times for a whole year.
Yeah.
At only 10% of his salary. And I kid, you don't want this to happen, but it is interesting. Like the money is so big now. It's like there's fame, and now there's just like, oh yeah, like we can target this human to go get their things. And I don't know if it's just new to the public spotlight and us talking about it, or if this has always been happening and we never heard about it, but it's now the NFL and the NBA that have issued statements to all their players. Like, yo, everyone knows when you're on the road, have a plan in place. And I know Tua was cited in one article saying, yeah, I've got security when I'm on the road at all times. And I've got family that's staying home. And when I'm not there, there's an extra couple bodies there. And I just have a guy on full payroll that just literally walks the campus. Like he's doing perimeter checks. So I don't know. Sorry for Joe. I think he's going to be all right, both on the girlfriend front and the replacing the lost items front. And the football thing's been pretty good too. I think he's first in passing yards, touchdowns, and would it QBR? What would the other one be? I'm not sure.
I would assume
basically.
Yeah, it wouldn't be completion percentage too. Was running away with that, so I would assume it's passer rating. But I mean, just sticking on Joe Burrow, if his team was just even a little bit better, if they were like actually in the playoff hunt, I think MVP, like undoubtedly MVP, right?
Well, it's a slow start, but he always has those. And Chase he's got the real triple crown Chase. He's got yardage, receptions, and touchdowns for wide receiver. Number one at all right now, I believe, coming down the home stretch. Like, how bad is this defense? And Jack will be texting me all the time. Just like, this Cincy D is so bad. And I'm like, Jack, it's 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. I understand Cincinnati's bad. You need to get over this game. It ended 8 hours ago. But, like, if this was a middle-of-the-pack defense, are the Bengals not running away with that division? I know Steelers have been good, but, like, they've just got nothing on the defensive side of the football. You can score 40 and lose if you're Joe Burrow.
I mean, that's happened.
That's insane.
I know. Like, it's completely brutal. I don't know how the DC isn't fired at this point. Like, when you're getting that production on offense, he's thrown for 300 passing yards in, I think, 4 straight games. Like, he's just been balling, and they're not even like really flirting with the playoff position. Like, that's a bad football right there on the defensive side. So you got to get something switched up there.
Now, did you have the crazy Jamar Chase stat?
Yeah.
Now, Jack, do you have it by chance or no? Because I'll get Tyson to read it. It'll actually, if you take your time on it, it's a brilliant read.
Yeah.
So Jamar Chase, and we just talked about he and Burrow basically gone nuclear since that 2 or 3 week, I guess, speed bump out of the gate. And, Jamar had the hold in and said at his locker, no, I am the best receiver in football. I have no doubt about it. And had some quiet weeks to start. JJ had a hot start. He's looking really good. They're going to pay this guy.
They're going to have to, and it's going to be more than JJ, more than the dollar he asked for this offseason. Like, that's going to hurt them.
Yeah. So here's the tweet. What do you got for us?
Here's a stat. With 14 catches, 177 receiving yards, and 2 scores, Jamar Chase is the first receiver with a 10-plus, 175-plus, 2-plus game since Jamar Chase did it in Week 10 against the Ravens, who was the first receiver to do it since Jamar Chase did it in Week 5 against the Ravens.
So a month ago, and then a month and a half before that, the only 2 other
it's him, and him. And
the top receivers are him, and him. Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
wow.
That is crazy. If it wasn't for Saquon Barkley not being able to win MVP because it's a quarterback award, Jamar Chase would undoubtedly run away with the Offensive Player of the Year award.
We do need a non-NFL MVP, like call it the Barry Sanders, whatever you want. But we need something that's non-quarterback.
Of course. I mean, like, just do a quarterback award and then do an actual MVP award, because then I think it wouldn't even be close it'd be a 2-headed race between Saquon and Chase. Okay,
a couple items for you. We'll stick with the quarterback. Sam Darnold going to get paid. He's been awesome. Does he stay in Minnesota? Can Minnesota afford to do it with the high draft capital they use on J.J. McCarthy? He's been watching his every move this year. And is Kevin O'Connell so good that he's making it hard for his own team because he's turned a scrap heap guy into the top free agent in this quarterback class this coming spring?
Yeah, I mean that's a tough situation because Darnold, you look around the league, he's bounced around Carolina, New York, San Fran. Never really like got his own footing, like wasn't this player that he is this season. So
Mhm.
that kind of begs the question, like, would he be the same player he is in Minnesota elsewhere? I'm not
Right.
so sure. Like, it might be just his weapons. He's got great weapons. Jay Jettis, Addison, TJ Hawkinson. Like, he's running that offense really well. And so I think you got to resign him if you're the Vikings because,
Really?
yeah, I think so because
What if it's
he's
4
20.
times 40, like the Kirk Cousins deal or something like that? Like Kirk got paid big time under Kevin O'Connell, has gone to Atlanta, does not look like the same quarterback. Now he's coming off that injury, but still, like that's what you're afraid of, right? You're committing to the guy when it was the system that was successful, not him.
For sure. And I mean, like Brock Purdy is a perfect example of that. Like he's going to get paid this season because of the system he's in. And it just works for some QBs. Like, so if he goes somewhere else, I don't necessarily know if he'll have the same success. But as I was saying, the Vikings should do this because you know what Darnold is in your system.
Right.
He's 27 years old. He's not old. He
That's
was
true.
20
He's
when he was
younger,
drafted. Yeah, he's super young. I think he's younger than Burrow, like, which is crazy to think, right? But like he's got still so much football left in him. Like he doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires from previous seasons. So like, and you know it works. Like, sure, probably sucks that you drafted JJ after bringing in Darnold, right? Because you drafted him to be the quarterback of the franchise, but he might have lost that role like when he tore his meniscus. Now, question: JJ McCarthy was great in the preseason before he got hurt.
Means nothing, but yes, go ahead.
But he was never going to start. Right? It was always
it would be mid-season, and what's the record, and how's the other guy playing? When is he comfy with the playbook? Like, yeah, it would be one of those like he'll back up until there's a time where it makes sense, right?
For sure. But with how Darnold's played this season, do you think JJ would have ever gotten in?
There'd have to be a week in there where just everything went wrong, and I don't know that I've seen it. Like, I haven't watched Minnesota that closely, but like he's legitimately been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year. Which is stunning given the suitcase stickers he's got, which is I was here, I was there, I was here, I was there. Like that's why he feels so much older than he actually is. He's got 4 teams under his belt or whatever it is. Burrow's wore the same jersey the whole time, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And like I don't think JJ would have gotten in. Sure, there was that one game against the Jaguars where he threw 3 picks in the end zone. They only scored 12 points. They won, but like I don't think he would have ever gotten in. And
no, because at that point you built up enough stock. They're like, look, he's great. He just had a bad week. Keep
for sure. And if you like, I don't think it's necessarily that bad. You saw Jordan Love, what he became after he sat 4 years behind Aaron Rodgers. Right now, I'm not comparing Darnold to Aaron Rodgers by any means, but you can see that like doing that works. Like,
and Rodgers did it with Favre, right?
Exactly.
Mahomes did it with
Alex Smith.
Thank you, Alex Smith and KC for a year.
Yeah,
I think it's great when guys sit and watch. It takes a lot of the pressure off, and we've seen superstars look like bumbling fools in their first seasons in this league. Like Peyton Manning was awful his rookie year, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
And I mean, like Bryce Young was bad last year. Anthony Richardson, he got hurt. Like hasn't looked great this season, but you have that backup role a little bit. You learn, you get acclimated to the NFL because it's a lot different than college, and then they're able to perform because they know what to do. So if you sign Darnold 4 times 40 or whatever, like you said, I mean, that gives him JJ a lot of time to kind of develop, and then he'll be thrown right in there. And then by that time, I think McCarthy was 20, 21, kind of the same age as Darnold was when he was drafted. And then now, like, okay, get rid of Darnold, and then you got JJ in there. But I mean, who's to say like Darnold doesn't have like a little bit of a down year, and then you've still got JJ on a rookie deal for the next 2 seasons, right?
I just don't think it's going to happen. Now, listen, how the season ends matters. If Minnesota goes and wins the Super Bowl, they're bringing this cat back, like no question. And they're a 2-loss team. Like we're not talking about, hey, they're 500. Congrats. We thought you'd be better. Like they're really good. Yeah. They would win any other division in football, I'd think, because I think they could handle KC better than the rest of the AFC West could. But yeah, like it's the challenge is you've got JJ McCarthy cheap for a certain number of years. And the challenge is you're going to be competing with teams that'll probably float a Baker Mayfield type deal on the table or a Kirk Cousins type deal on the table. And so you're already spending essentially top dollar on Justin Jefferson. If you're going to be competitive, can you spend all that money and then when you get rid of him, immediately start paying JJ McCarthy or risk losing him for nothing? Like it's an interesting little dance they have to do here. Because I think if there was a 1 or 2 year deal, it makes so much sense. But as soon as you're talking 3-4, it's like, now this is starting to squint a lot more in terms of like, how do you make all the math work? So I'm curious to see. It's going to be fascinating. It's a good problem. It's better than the Atlanta problem where Kirk Cousins has not played well and he's got 3 years left. And you're looking at the rookie saying, is he ready yet? Because I don't know what to do here.
I mean, if Penix was ready, I bet you he'd be starting because
the guy's thrown 8 picks the last 2 games, right?
Yeah. And like the last, I don't know. He doesn't have a touchdown in his last 4 games, I want to say. Like passing touchdown.
Yeah, I think it's last 4 games, no passing touchdowns, 8 picks or something.
Gross. That's not ideal if you're Atlanta. Those are the guys that didn't hire Bill Belichick. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Going back to Darnold, like, if I'm him, like, sure, you've had success in Minnesota. It worked. You probably want to stay there. But like you said, they're probably not inclined to give him that long-term deal that he should be looking for because he's bounced around so much in this league. Like, you want some security, right? And so I could see him going elsewhere. Like, could you imagine the Giants sign him if they don't take a quarterback?
It's
like
the exact type of team. I mean, there's going to be teams at the top of the draft that have a certain quarterback they really want that isn't going to be there. It's like, shit. Well, okay, we can go get the best pass rusher in the draft, the best O lineman, or the best, offensive skill position guy right now at the draft, and we'll backfill with a vet. And oh my God, look at the year Darnold had. Like, those teams are going to be more desperate than the Vikings in terms of the offer they put in front of them, which is why I have my doubts. Final one: are you buying any beef between Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, who's gone quiet the last month? What do we make of this? This was a very, very dynamic first half of the year. I want to say it's been a little quieter since as Saquon's been dominating and Hurts is still getting the tush pushes here and there. But where's all the passing yardage to AJ Brown? Is there an issue here?
No, like that. This is ridiculous. Like they were so excited when like the two got to reunite in Philly. Like when that trade happened, they were so excited. I'm pretty sure AJ Brown or Hurts, can't remember who has the child, but the other person's the godfather. So like they're super close and everything. So I never believed in the rift. The only thing, like, they don't have to throw right now. They have Saquon, like, who's just tearing up run defenses left and right. Like, it doesn't matter who they're playing. Saquon's getting it on the ground. What I'm so confused about is why are you so upset? Like, sure, like, wide receivers are just divas. This is what I'm come down to. But, like, who cares if you're not getting the ball? You're still winning.
Yeah.
With A.J. Brown in the lineup, the Eagles have not lost this season.
That's a good stat. Yeah.
So what are you upset about? You're winning. Like, who cares? Like, if you're not getting yours, like, you've got the long-term deal. It's not like you're vying for a contract this season and you need like the stats to make more money. Like, you're fine. Your team's winning. You're a serious Super Bowl contender. Like, shut up.
I am interested about because you mentioned it. Like, it's been so easy for them in the sense that we just run through everyone, including like a good Ravens defense a couple of weeks ago. Saquon does it, and this thing's in the bag. It's probably time to start thinking about, like, let's make sure Saquon's ready for our first playoff game. But the challenge is they're 11-2. Detroit's 12-1, 11-2 with the Vikings. Like, God, if they just had that bye a little more secure, they could really start the load management thing with Saquon. Because, I mean, making sure he's 100 in the playoffs, that's might be top priority for Philly.
For sure. And I guarantee you that's what we see down the stretch. Like,
yeah. Once we get a little more clarity.
For sure. I mean, like,
for weeks.
Sorry, the division's been wrapped up?
Yeah, because, Washington struggled and Dallas is no good and the Giants are trash. Like, we know they're going to win the division. Sure. It's just that bye might be keeping Saquon in a little more.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, we're going to see that down the stretch. Like, especially whenever people talk in the media and are like, oh, hey, like, I'm disappointed in my role. I need the ball more, blah, blah, blah. You typically see them get the ball a little bit. So maybe we'll touch on that saving Sunday. But, I mean, I don't read too much into this. Like, there shouldn't be a big riff. It's probably one thing that was mistaken in the media, right? So,
okay, well, that's sort of the news of the week. We dance around the NFL. A lot of conversation of the other 30 teams that aren't playing tonight. Let's get to it with the Rams and the Niners tonight. It is a huge game. Let's pull up the sheet from our good pals at Bet Victor. Money lines, totals, and the spread. Here it is. This was 3 yesterday. It's now 2.5, as the Niners are favored at home, but they're not as heavy a favorite as they were just 24 hours ago. And I'm not exactly sure why, in terms of news. It's not like Garendo is able to start. Oh, okay. Well, now we got to. No, that doesn't really make sense. Maybe it's just a lot of money coming in on the Rams, and it appears that that's exactly what has happened to this point.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have that pulled up. Funny that you bring that up, but 73% of the bets are on the Rams at +3. Yeah, but money wise, only 62%. So 9%
more than half the money, but yeah,
still more money. But it's always like a big inclination when you look at it, and you're like, okay, like if more money's coming in, like the public is clearly on the Rams here with the +3 number, but there's more money coming in on the Niners side, and we should normally
bets on the Niners. Yeah,
exactly. So we'll see what it looks like closer to kickoff, but that's always something important to look at, especially when betting like things like this, like sides and totals and stuff.
NFC West is an intriguing one. Everyone's still in it, although Arizona has not had an inspiring run here. Let's look at the standings, where Seattle's actually been the hot team. They've won 4 in a row. They're up to 8-5. They were 4-5 and now lead the division. We kept waiting for the Niners to kick in a high gear. That loss in Buffalo a couple of weeks ago, I think everyone quit them, and they actually looked pretty good last week, destroying Chicago after 3 straight losses. I don't really know what to make of the Niners. They're very dinged up. They've also had some underwhelming performances from some of their big guys. They continue to churn through running backs with injuries. And the Rams here, I mean, this is a group that I'm looking. They've won 6 of their last 8 after a 1-4 start. The Rams are here. Wow.
It's impressive what they've done, and it's pretty much all because now Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua is back. I mean, Nacua has been unstoppable lately. His numbers are off the charts. If it wasn't for Jamar Chase, he'd be leading in a lot of receiving categories over the past few weeks. But this division is probably the most exciting thing in football to watch right now, because there was a lot of chatter going on that like the NFL making it 7 teams in the playoffs has kind of killed all the parity in the league, right? Because you pretty much know if the Broncos beat the Colts this week, you pretty much know all 7 AFC teams that are going to get in. Yeah. And then because Colts are the only ones that can compete, but the Broncos are also there. So that's like a 2-game swing right there. So it'll probably be done. But NFC, like the only thing really we're watching for here is who's going to win the NFC South between the Bucs and the Falcons. Yeah. And then, what's going to happen in this division, because it's not wrapped up. It's not even close. Like they've got Seahawks have a couple more divisional games, I'm pretty sure. And like last place to first place is 2 games. So I'm excited. Like it should be a great game tonight. There's so much on the line for both teams, because if the Rams win, aren't they? If the Seahawks lose against the Packers, they're tied for first in the division.
Rams have played Seattle already as well. They won. They've got one more with Seattle, which is huge. So Rams win tonight. I don't want to say puts them in the driver's seat, but I mean, they are absolutely in control of their own destiny, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So that
if they went out, they'd be in.
Yeah. So huge for the Rams. The Niners on the other side, they'd lost 3 in a row before that one over Chicago I told you about that you saw last weekend. You need to win here. A loss would be crippling.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you're not out of it if you lose this game for either team. Well, maybe the Niners, but it's pretty much gone. Like your season's
realistically,
pretty much
you're cooked. Mathematically, you're hanging on by a thread, but realistically, you're cooked. Like you've already played 2 games against Seattle. You split. You don't get a chance to chase them. This is the second and final meeting of the season between these 2 teams. Like San Fran just run out of runway. Like, sorry, you lose this, you drop to 8 losses. 9-8's as good as you can be. Mm-hmm. And if you lost tonight, you'd lose a tiebreak to the Rams. Like, yeah, that's you need a miracle to get in. So Jack, with that in mind, let's talk about these 2 rosters. There are some news and notes around the team, injuries, returns from injuries.
Let's start with the Niners, because I think that's kind of the biggest news of the day with Garendo. He will play. Played 56% of the snaps last week, had 15 carries for 78 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 receptions for 50 yards.
Good day.
Very good day. How much will he play is going to be the question. Trent Williams, their left tackle, he will be out again. This will be his 4th straight miss. Nick Bosa's missed 3. He's questionable for tonight. And then Dre Greenlaw will make his season debut.
That's a big get for them.
That is a big get. Yeah, linebacker.
And Trent Williams is tough because that's, he's a perennial Pro Bowler, one of the best left tackles we've seen in our lives. That helps you in the run game. That helps you in pass protections. Blind side of the quarterback. It's an important thing.
For sure. And a lot of people around the NFL say that he's the most valuable player to any team ever because of how dominant he is at keeping pretty protected. So it's a huge loss. I mean, they won last week, but like haven't looked convincing without him. And I mean, it was the Bears. So, I mean,
I don't know what to make of it. They did beat them pretty badly, which is good to see because the Niners have been hanging around in games you really didn't think they should at times this year.
Bears were just horrible.
Bears are brutal right now. Yeah. So that's the story for the injuries on the Niners. What about the Rams, Jack?
Yeah, we'll go to the Rams. Demarcus Robinson is questionable. He isn't as big of a part of their offense with Nakua and Kupp around, but he still plays quite a bit. He played 61% of the snaps. If he's out, you'll probably see more Tutu Atwell. Alaric Jackson, he played last week. He's their starting left tackle. He's questionable this week once again, leaning towards playing. Kobe Durant, their starting corner, he's out. And Tyler Higbee practiced full this week, but he is not going to play.
Tight end. Okay. Very good. Tyson, you've been cooking all week in the lab. Let's pull up the stoplights. Are we green for go? Are we red for stop? Or is it kind of in that middle-y, almost burnt orange shade? Let's check in on the data and see where we're cooking today.
There's definitely a couple good spots, but as you can see, a lot of red.
Not looking great for the Rams as the Niners D has all that red, indicating tough matchup for the quarterback, the running back, the wide receivers, and the tight ends, which would make sense. The Niners, good defensive club when they're right.
Yeah, they've always had a good defense going back the last couple seasons, but like this is crazy. Like tight ends, they're pretty much nothing. Like you can't get anything on the tight end now. I'm not betting anything Colby Parkinson anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But like the wide receivers there, that's where the Rams it's a 3-part offense. Like it's Kyron Williams out the middle, and then Cooper Kupp in the slot, Puka Nacua on the outside. Like where's the edge here? There's no edge in any regard. Like 30th to wide receiver receiving yards, 28th to wide receiver receptions. Like it's not going to be good. Now, if you look at some of the Rams targets lately, like it's all funneled towards Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. So, I mean, just volume based, maybe you'll get like an edge there, but it's definitely not a good matchup. One thing I kind of wanted to talk about on the Ram side here, I mean, they're decent towards tight ends. They allow a lot of rushing yards, but I don't really I'm not trusting Isaiah Guerrero. I'm sorry. But like, yes, he's probably going to play, but they're saying he's just going to play through his foot sprain. I don't know about you, but I got turf toe this last summer. I could barely put any weight on it, and that's turf toe. Like I always made fun of NFL players for having turf toe. Like, I'll get back in there, little wimp. But like, if you sprained your foot, I don't know how much you're going to play or how effective you're going to be. Sure, he had a great week last week, but in a good matchup, I don't really want to trust Guerrero, and we don't have any Patrick Taylor lines. But one thing for the wide receivers here, the Rams allow the 29th most receptions, but they're in the top half of the league in terms of receiving yards. So they allow big plays. So, I mean, Jawan Jennings, Debo, Kittle, like they all look good in this matchup to go over their longest reception line.
Interesting. Yeah, the thing with Guerrero is like, it's the Niners, and they've kind of burnt us a little. Like, how did they go with Christian McCaffrey in training camp? What were they telling us about him? Oh, yeah, he'll be ready for week 1. Yeah, he should be fine. Week of, well, questionable. Guy didn't play till like what, mid to late November? Like there's just, and then you're like, oh yeah, this guy's been playing with a fractured bone in his leg the whole season. Like, Niners, like,
what are you doing?
You got to tell us some of this stuff. And so when they're like, oh yeah, Guerrero's good to go, he's going to start. First off, maybe it's just one series and he starts, and then it's Taylor the rest of the day. Secondly, it's like maybe they're just still the Niners and they're trying to mislead us a bit with this injury stuff, because they certainly weren't fully transparent with McCaffrey this year, and a lot of people haven't forgotten that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it just always seems like the Niners are always super injured. And in terms of Patrick Taylor, if he does get the bulk of the carries, like he's a 4-string running back, and he's 4-string running back running behind a line that does not have Trent Williams anymore. So I don't know. It's not that we haven't really seen what Patrick Taylor can do, but if he's getting outsnapped by Isaac Guerrero, then I'm not really putting too much stock into that. But maybe who knows? there's a disgruntled wide receiver that might get some run, who they like to put in the backfield.
They've also got Izzy Abikanda, who just came over a week ago. I don't know how much he knows the playbook.
He was scratched last week.
Right, and that's because he's brand new. But, I mean, again, if they know Garendo's health better than we do, they do. Maybe they activate 3 backs. That would be a red flag for me. If you're fantasy or you're looking at running back lines, if they have 3 active running backs, I'd be worried. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like I've got Garendo in a fantasy league. I'm not starting him tonight. Like just with the foot sprain and all that, it's just too risky, especially for fantasy.
I sort of put it. They did have 3 backs last week. They have Keyshawn Vaughn on the roster as well.
Yeah, who I'm not worried about stealing.
Not at all.
Yeah, and again, like Abikanda just got there. It's his second week in the building. Let him get a climb. I think he's got way more upside than Keyshawn Vaughn, but maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know.
And Patrick Taylor too. But
and to be fair, like it's the Niners have done this before. They bring in scrubs that you think are has-beens, and they can always seemingly run the ball all right. It just feels like it could be a committee tonight.
Yeah, and that's what's so scary, because like that's a great matchup. That's what you want to target, but it's just you're trying to pick who it is, and you don't even know.
I think it's a hot hand thing. I think Garendo starts the game, if he's running the ball well and he's healthy, he'll get more snaps. If he's not, they'll go with the other guy. Yeah, and it's just like you're healthy till you're not. If you're Garendo, like he's got a sprained foot, like he might feel fine in the first series and then be like, "See ya." Like, So it's a tough one to try to guess because we don't know what it looks like yet. So let's go to a different area. We've all seen what's happened in the last month. George Kittle has gone from good to great tight end season in terms of yardage, touchdowns, with Brandon Ayuk done for the year. He's really become the focal point of this offense, catching the ball, not Deebo Samuel. And I know Jennings has been a really nice revelation, but Kittle's been phenomenal of late. What do you see with Kittle here? Anything we can exploit?
Yeah, I mean, that's our first bet right there. George Kittle to go over his receiving yards. He's cleared this line at 58 in 5 out of the last 8. I just checked before we went live, and it's 58.5 now. So just wanted to mention that.
Half yard.
Yeah, cleared 5 of the last 8, averages 79.9 receiving yards on the season, and that includes 151 receiving yards last week against the Bears, who were actually pretty decent against tight ends, and they just got exploited. So now in a favorable matchup against the Rams here, I like it even more. At home, Kittle's cleared this line at 4 straight games, and he averages 109.8 receiving yards per game. With the Rams allowing 55.9, they rank 13th. They've allowed opposing tight ends this season to go over their line in 9 out of their last 11 games, outside of which pretty much 9 out of all season outside of week 1. Even when these two teams played earlier in the year, George Kittle did not play, but Eric Saubert had 41 receiving yards. Who? That's right. Yeah. Kittle runs.
He hasn't heard of us. That's fine. It's okay.
Hey, that's okay. Well, maybe he will today. Kittle's run in line. So like his routes, 57.1% of his routes have come when he's lined up in the line. The Rams allow the 4th highest catch rate to inline receivers, the 6th most receiving yards, and the 5th most yak. And Kittle blows away all those stats. The Rams run the 8th most zone in the entire NFL. Kittle leads the 49ers against zone in target share, targets, receiving yards, yards per reception, yards after catch, yards per route run. He just dominates zone coverage and
zone killer.
Yeah, zone killer, and they're not very good. The Rams are against inline receivers, so I bet you we see another really big game from Kittle here.
I like this bet a lot. I've laddered him up a ton at 58.5 now. That's still a number that you tell me with the home stuff. That's crazy.
Yeah. 4 straight
at home, averaging over 100 at home. Like this is 108 close to 58, fellas. Like he's casually breezing by this number easily in the first half of games sometimes. So I like this one a lot. Where else are we going?
I just have one kind of little devil's advocate here for Kittle. He's actually over the last 3 seasons never cleared this line against the Rams. So he's due against the Rams.
Play this year. Maybe he would have even played that game.
Well, Saubert almost did it. So
so Kittle's never heard of it. 41 yards. Come on. Now.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Second bet. What do you like?
Niners get it done, man. I like the Niners on the money line. It's a little juicy, -143, but I mean, I just like it. I'd like a disappointing game from the Rams here because they're coming off such a huge emotional win. That game against the Bills was phenomenal. What was it, 44, 42, something like that?
Yep.
So, yeah, that was a game that they probably shouldn't have won, and they did win. So now they're probably riding a high. Now, big divisional matchup. You can kind of see, like, I wouldn't say upsets as they're favorited, but, the Rams are higher than them in the division. There's so much going wrong with the Niners, and the Rams are so healthy. I just think it could be a really big letdown spot. Now, I don't like the line, because a lot of these games, they're actually within 1 to 2 points. So just go with the money line, pay a little juicier here.
That makes sense. Yeah. If you're not comfy laying the 2.5 or 3, wherever you've got that number at when you make the bet. If you like the Niners, just take the money line. Now, Jack, we've talked to you about this game for a couple of days. Are you leaning Niners or are you leaning Rams? Because we just did watch the Rams probably at their best last week, didn't we?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Tyson on this one. I think they're going to be coming off an emotional high. That's a big win. They put up 44 points. I don't think the Niners are they're a well-coached team. They just have a lot of injuries. I think they'll win here at home. I like the Niners side.
Yeah. Previous meeting this year was a wild one. It was 27-24. The Rams did win it, but the Niners were up 10 with 6.5 minutes left, fellas. I'm going to say that again. The Niners were up 10 with 6.5 minutes left. It was one of numerous games this year where they've been in control and said, hey, world-class defense, take care of things here. Maybe just make them kick the ball, whether it's field goals or punts, and we win this thing. They didn't. Instead, it was field goal, touchdown, field goal. Carty had a pair of the field goals, and they win by 3. It was a really shocking, oh my goodness, because at that time of the year, the Rams were 0-2, and it was the only win they had in their first 5 games was this incredible, it looks like the outlier. But now 6 of 8, Rams have won. It's funny, the Niners have let some teams hang around. I think of the Geno Smith scramble to the end zone. I know Arizona, they've done it. It's killing them in division. They've been giving some wins away.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a perfect opportunity for them to get their redemption tonight because they blew that lead. They should have easily controlled that with their defense within 10 minutes, right? So, I don't know. I like that. And historically, Shanahan has McVay's number. He's won 7 out of the last 10 games against McVay. The only thing, 2 of those 3 wins from the Rams have come in their previous 2 games. So, I mean, hopefully the pendulum hasn't swung too far and Niners can get back in the win column.
2 minutes left in the show. We've got 2 bets in there. We have Kittle over 58.5 yards receiving. We have the San Francisco money line. I will submit something fourth. We can all take a little sniff. We'll pick one, or maybe we just have the dealer's choice for the third pick. Everyone can go their own ways, and we'll get out of here. I like Stafford under 243.5 yards. We saw all the red. It's a really tough defense to pass the ball on. I just don't know that 2 weeks in a row we're going to get that same show from Stafford, Kupp, and Nakua. What do you like as a third bet?
Well, me and Jack talked about one. I want to talk about the Nakua one. It's so scary. Nakua under receptions because he's been soaring over this line. I just think 7.5 is such a high line. Last week he had 12 on 14 targets. He's got above 13 targets in 3 of his last 5 games. But I don't know. I just thought that number was too high. But I think the one me and Jack talked about that I'm starting to really like, and it's a little gross one, but Deebo Samuel over the rushing yards.
16.5 rushing yards. You like the over. He hasn't cleared it since week 1, but desperate times call for desperate measures. We talked about the injuries at running back, and they're trying to get him the ball. The squeaky wheel thing's real. Deebo says, I got to get the ball in my hands more.
And especially, that's the big thing. He needs to get the ball in his hands more. He's not a very good receiver against zone coverage, and Rams run the 8th most zone. So how do you get the ball in his hands, especially when Garendo's hurt and you don't really have a good run game outside of that? Deebo Samuel, also against the Rams, he's cleared this line in 4 out of his last 6 games, averaging 26.3 yards. And that's with healthy running backs.
I'm going to make this our third bet of the day. Deebo over 16.5 rushing yards, joining San Francisco money line, and Kittle over 58.5 yards. Those are our 3 picks of the week. Enjoy the game tonight. Enjoy the rest of week 15. And we're into the crazy Christmas season schedule coming up. Tyson, all the best. Thanks for your time. Producer Jack, great work as always. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the game.